My girlfriend said, "Stop trying to fix me. This is who I am." I said, "I accept that." Then I stopped paying for the things that supported her flaws, like her bar tab and late-night Ubers. Suddenly, she wanted to change. I, 29M, thought I was being supportive when I covered her expenses. Turns out I was just enabling her to avoid responsibility. My girlfriend and I had been together for 2 years. She was spontaneous, free-spirited, everything I wasn't. While I worked my corporate job and maintained routines, she bounced between part-time gigs, staying out until 3 a.m., and living paycheck to paycheck. I found it charming at first. Her carefree attitude balanced my structured life. The problems started small. She'd forget her wallet when we went out, so I'd cover dinner. Her car broke down, so I paid for her Ubers to work. She'd have amazing nights out with friends, but wake up broke, so I'd quietly transfer money to her account. I told myself this was what partners did. We supported each other. But the pattern escalated. 3 nights a week became 5 nights out. The Uber rides weren't just to work anymore. They were from downtown bars at 2 a.m. because she was too drunk to drive. Her part-time job became irregular because she kept calling and hungover. The money I was transferring increased from $50 here and there to hundreds every week. I started keeping mental notes. Last month alone, 400 in bar tabs, 300 in late-night Ubers, 200 covering her rent shortfall, 150 for her phone bill she forgot to pay. Over $1,000 supporting what I was beginning to see weren't just quirks, but destructive patterns. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning. She stumbled home at 6 a.m., reeking of alcohol and cigarettes. I was getting ready for work, having barely slept because I'd been worried sick. She collapsed into bed without removing her makeup, mumbling something about her friend's birthday party that had apparently lasted until sunrise. That evening, I tried to have a conversation about it. I explained that I was concerned about her drinking, her inconsistent work schedule, her financial dependency on me. I suggested maybe she could limit her nights out, find a more stable job, take some responsibility for her expenses. Her response was immediate and defensive. She told me to stop trying to fix her. This was who she was, she said. She was fun, spontaneous, lived in the moment. I was trying to turn her into some boring corporate drone like myself. If I couldn't accept her for who she was, maybe we weren't compatible. The conversation escalated quickly. She accused me of being controlling, of trying to change the very things that made her unique. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to control her. I was trying to help her build a sustainable life. But she wasn't hearing it. Finally, she delivered what she thought was the ultimate argument. She said this was who she was, take it or leave it. She wasn't going to change for me or anyone else. I needed to either accept her completely or walk away. I looked at her standing there, defiant and stubborn, and something clicked. She was right. This was who she was. And I needed to accept that. But acceptance didn't mean I had to continue enabling these behaviors. I told her I accepted her exactly as she was. I wouldn't try to change her anymore. She seemed satisfied, thinking she'd won the argument. What she didn't realize was that accepting her meant accepting that she was someone who made choices without considering consequences. Someone who prioritized immediate gratification over long-term stability. Someone who expected others to clean up her messes. And if that's who she was, then I needed to stop protecting her from the natural results of those choices. The next Friday, she texted me from downtown. She was out with friends and wanted me to transfer money for drinks. I texted back that I was busy and couldn't help. She seemed confused but didn't push it. Saturday night, same thing. She was at a bar, wallet at home. Could I send money? I told her I'd already spent my entertainment budget for the week. She called me, irritated, asking what was wrong with me. I reminded her that she'd told me this was who she was, and I was accepting it. Part of who she was, apparently, was someone who went out without planning how to pay for it. By the third weekend, the pattern was clear. No more automatic money transfers. No more covering her drinks when we went out together. No more paying for Ubers she called when she was too drunk to drive home. No more covering her bills when she came up short. I wasn't being cruel or vindictive. I was simply no longer participating in the financial support system that allowed her to avoid consequences. When she went out, she had to figure out her own transportation. When she wanted drinks, she had to budget for them. When she couldn't make rent, she had to find solutions that didn't involve me. The changes were immediate and dramatic. The first month was rough. She borrowed money from friends, picked up extra shifts, complained constantly about being broke. She accused me of being petty and vindictive. I reminded her that I was simply accepting who she was, someone who lived paycheck to paycheck and prioritized fun over financial responsibility. By the second month, something interesting happened. She started staying home more often, not because I forced her to, but because she couldn't afford not to. She picked up more shifts at work because she needed the money. She started buying groceries and cooking at home instead of eating out every night. The most telling moment came when she got promoted at her part-time job. Her manager had noticed her improved reliability and offered her more hours and better pay. She was genuinely excited, proud of herself in a way I hadn't seen before. But the real revelation came during month 3. She sat me down for a serious conversation, looking more sober and thoughtful than I'd seen her in our entire relationship. She told me she'd been thinking about what I'd said months earlier, about taking responsibility and building a sustainable life. She admitted that having me as a financial safety net had made it easy to make irresponsible choices. She never had to face real consequences because I was always there to catch her when she fell. She'd convinced herself that this was just her personality, but now she was realizing that some of what she'd called being spontaneous was actually just being reckless. She said she wanted to change, not for me, but for herself. She'd started enjoying the feeling of earning her own money, of being able to afford things without relying on anyone else. She was sleeping better, felt healthier, and was discovering that she could still have fun without drinking herself into oblivion 3 times a week. The conversation continued for hours. She asked if I thought there was still a future for us, now that she was becoming someone different. I told her I'd fallen in love with her spirit and energy, not her self-destructive habits. If she was choosing to be more responsible while keeping the qualities that made her special, that sounded like the best of both worlds. Update 1. 6 months later, our relationship had transformed completely. She'd been promoted again and was now working full-time with benefits. She still went out with friends, but maybe once a week, and she always had a plan for getting home safely. She'd started a small savings account and was proud of watching it grow. The most surprising change was in our dynamic. Before, I'd felt like a parent managing a teenager's finances. Now we were actual partners, making decisions together, splitting expenses fairly. She insisted on paying me back for some of the money I'd spent during her irresponsible phase, which I hadn't expected but deeply appreciated. She also started calling out friends who were stuck in the same patterns she'd escaped. One night, she told me about a conversation with her friend who was constantly borrowing money and making poor decisions. She'd found herself giving the same advice I tried to give her months earlier. Update 2. A year later, she brought up the original conversation that had changed everything. She thanked me for not giving up on her, but also for not continuing to enable her destructive behavior. She said the hardest part hadn't been giving up the partying lifestyle. It had been facing the fact that she'd been using me as a crutch to avoid growing up. She admitted that when I first stopped covering her expenses, she'd been furious and had seriously considered ending our relationship. She'd thought I was punishing her for being herself. It took weeks for her to realize that I wasn't trying to control her choices. I was just refusing to subsidize the consequences of those choices. We got engaged that year, not because she'd become someone different, but because she'd become the best version of herself. She was still spontaneous and fun, but now she was also responsible and reliable. She could plan a surprise weekend trip because she'd budgeted for it, not because she assumed I'd cover the costs. Update 3. Looking back now, I realized that the most important lesson wasn't about money or responsibility. It was about the difference between accepting someone and enabling them. I thought I was being loving and supportive by constantly bailing her out, but I was actually preventing her from developing the skills and confidence she needed to take care of herself. True acceptance meant acknowledging who she was, including her capacity for growth and change, even when she couldn't see it herself. It meant respecting her enough to let her face consequences and learn from them. It meant trusting that she was stronger and more capable than either of us had realized. The woman I fell in love with was always in there, spontaneous, energetic, full of life. But she'd been buried under layers of irresponsibility and avoidance. By stopping my financial support, I didn't change who she was. I just stopped preventing her from becoming who she was meant to be. Our relationship now is everything I'd hoped for in those early days, but built on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine partnership. She often jokes that I helped her grow up by refusing to treat her like a child. And she's right. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let someone learn to stand on their own. The bar tabs and late-night Ubers were never really the problem. They were just symptoms of a deeper issue. The belief that someone else would always be there to fix her mistakes. Once that safety net was gone, she discovered she was perfectly capable of making better choices. She just needed the motivation to do it. If you'd like to see more stories like this, a gentle tap on the subscribe button would mean the world to us. Please subscribe.